Hi, I'm Val with Opera Guide at the Stage Door. Here is my review of Peter Grimes at the Royal Opera House, London. Running from 5 through 28 May 2026, on the main stage of the Royal Opera House, Benjamin Britten's Peter Grimes returns as one of the defining works of 20th century opera. Premiered in 1945 and adapted from George Crabbe's narrative poem, The Borough, the opera transformed English opera through its psychological complexity and its uncompromising portrait of isolation, guilt, and communal violence. Lasting approximately 3 hours and 35 minutes, including two intervals, Deborah Warner's production approaches the work not simply as maritime tragedy, but as a devastating examination of how societies create and ultimately destroy outsiders. Warner frames the borough as a community shaped less by solidarity than by exhaustion, suspicion, and fear. This is not a romanticized fishing village defined by rugged coastal life. Instead, the production presents a world of peeling walls, weather beaten structures, dim pub interiors, and harsh fluorescent light, a place worn down by labor and emotional attrition alike. The staging strips away sentimentality and replaces it with something painfully recognizable, a society where judgment arrives long before understanding. Visually, Michael Levin's designs create an atmosphere of relentless exposure. Nets, ropes, battered wooden structures, and stark open spaces give the borough a raw physical texture, while the looming presence of the sea hangs over the production like a psychological force. The lighting design proves especially effective throughout the evening, shifting from cold coastal glare to deep shadow with unsettling precision. Sudden floods of harsh white light make the townspeople's scrutiny feel inescapable, while darker scenes seem to swallow Grimes into isolation. The visual language constantly reinforces the opera's central tension between exposure and loneliness. The costuming grounds the production firmly in a world of physical labor and social hierarchy. Heavy coats, worn knitwear, practical boots, and muted colors create a community shaped by survival rather than individuality. The borough feels visually unified in its bleakness, which in turn makes Grimes' inability to integrate even more painfully apparent. Nothing in the costumes feels decorative. Every detail contributes to the sense of hard coastal existence eroded by routine, poverty, and emotional fatigue. At the center of the production stands Alan Clayton in the title role, delivering a portrayal that resists easy moral categorization. His Grimes is neither straightforward monster nor misunderstood innocent. Instead, Clayton presents a man fractured by loneliness, volatility, and desperate longing. Vocally, the performance balances lyric vulnerability with flashes of terrifying instability, particularly in Now the Great Bear and Pallades, where Britten briefly allows Grimes to imagine transcendence beyond the brutality surrounding him. Opposite him, Maria Bangston's Ellen Orford brings warmth and moral clarity without reducing the character to simple compassion. Her Ellen seems painfully aware of Grimes's instability while still clinging to the possibility of redemption. Their relationship feels less like operatic romance than two isolated people attempting and ultimately failing to create refuge against an increasingly hostile world. The Royal Opera Chorus proves central to the production's power. Warner stages the borough not as a background community, but as a collective organism, watchful, volatile, and increasingly merciless. In the great crowd scenes, the chorus becomes the engine of social pressure itself, their movement and vocal precision creating a terrifying sense of inevitability. the line between communal morality and mob violence grows dangerously thin. Bryn Terfel's Balstrode delivers exactly the kind of commanding performance audience have come to expect from him. With immense vocal authority and remarkable dramatic restraint, Terfel avoids turning Balstrode into a conventional heroic figure. Instead, he presents a man exhausted by the borough's cruelty, yet still capable of moments of compassion and moral clarity. His presence anchors the drama throughout the evening, and every scene in which he appears gains additional emotional gravity. Around him, the supporting cast contributes to the production's remarkable sense of social realism, creating a borough populated by recognizable people rather than symbolic types. That grounded naturalism makes the opera's violence feel even more disturbing. Under Jakob Prusa, the orchestra approaches Britten's score with extraordinary transparency and tension. The orchestration itself becomes a psychological landscape, constantly shifting between lyrical beauty and mounting dread. Britten's writing for the winds and lower strings carries an almost physical sense of unease, while the brass eruptions cut through the score like flashes of violence. Harusa resists the temptation to overwhelm the drama with sheer sonic weight, instead allowing the music's texture and emotional pacing to emerge with remarkable clarity. The sea interludes are especially powerful here. Rather than functioning as decorative orchestral showcases, they become emotional and environmental transitions, the sea itself seeming to breathe through the orchestra. At moments, the score feels almost cinematic in its ability to externalize Grimes's psychological state while simultaneously evoking the vast indifference of the natural world surrounding the borough. What lingers most after the curtain falls is the production's refusal to provide moral comfort. Warner does not ask the audience simply to pity Grimes, nor does she allow the borough the reassurance of righteousness. Instead, this Peter Grimes becomes a study in how fear hardens into cruelty, how communities construct outsiders, and how loneliness itself can become a form of destruction. Once again, I'm Valerie with Opera Guide. I'll see you at the stage door, where the conversation about opera always continues.